Ja, einen wunderschönen guten Tag. Ich begrüße Sie alle ganz herzlich im Namen des Max-Selbrick-Zentrums hier zur Eröffnung des Käthe-Beutler-Hauses auf dem Campus Berlin-Buch. Ich freue mich ganz besonders, die Bundesforschungsministerin Anja Karliczek zu begrüßen, den regierenden Bürgermeister von Berlin, Michael Müller, unsere Aufsichtsratsvorsitzende am MDC, Veronika von Messling, den Vorstandsvorsitzenden der Charité und guten Kollegen Hajo Krömer. Allow me to switch to English. Also a warm welcome from my side to all members of the Beutler family, which are also participating in this event. A warm welcome from my side. Nice to see you. Ich möchte auch begrüßen den Vorsitzenden der jüdischen Gemeinde Berlin, Gideon Joffe. Und nicht zuletzt möchte ich auch die Architekten begrüßen, die diesen wunderschönen Bau, in dem wir jetzt stehen, erdacht haben, Alexander Koblitz und Tim Kleier. Und ich möchte auch die beiden Künstlerinnen begrüßen, Candy Lenk und Anna Brockmann, die schöne Dekoration, die wir hier in diesem Haus haben, gemacht haben, erdacht haben und dieses Haus damit schöner machen. Ich möchte auch die vielen Vertreter des BMBF und der Senatskanzlei von Berlin begrüßen, natürlich auch alle Mitarbeiter von Charité, BIH und MDC und allen befreundeten wissenschaftlichen Einrichtungen. Wir treffen uns hier, um dieses neue Forschungsgebäude auf dem Campus Buch zu eröffnen. Es ist eine Gemeinschaftsproduktion mit dem Berliner Institut für Gesundheitsforschung. Wir freuen uns darüber sehr, weil dieses Gebäude sozusagen die in Beton gegossene privilegierte Partnerschaft demonstriert, die wir mit dem BIH eingegangen sind. Und wir schauen mit dieser privilegierten Partnerschaft und mit dem Inbetriebnehmen dieses Gebäudes, dieser Partnerschaft mit großer Freude entgegen und wünschen allen, die hier arbeiten, sehr viel Freude beim Arbeiten in diesem Gebäude. Dieses Gebäude und diese Aktivitäten werden auch den Campus verstärken. Der Campus hofft auch, ein guter Gastgeber für das BIH zu sein. Und das Max-Selbrick-Zentrum, wie auch das Institut für molekulare Pharmakologie, das ECRC, das Experimental and Clinical Research Center und auch der Biotech Campus nicht zuletzt, werden gute Gastgeber für die Aktivitäten in diesem neuen Gebäude sein. Jetzt möchte ich aber das Wort weitergeben an die Bundesforschungsministerin Anja Karliczek und für ein Grußwort, worüber wir sehr glücklich sind, und anschließend an den regierenden Bürgermeister von Berlin, Michael Müller, der auch ein paar Grußworte sagen wird. Vielen Dank.
Meine sehr geehrten Damen und Herren, tu was. Das war einer der Lieblingssätze der Kinderärztin und Forscherin Dr. Käthe Beutler. Nach diesem Motto hat sie Zeit ihres Lebens gehandelt. Käthe Beutler war eine bemerkenswerte und eine sehr, sehr starke Frau. Wir ehren sie heute in ganz besonderer Weise. Das neue Forschungsgebäude des Berliner Instituts für Gesundheitsforschung in der Charité, liebevoll auch BIC genannt, das wir hiermit am Campus Buch eröffnen, heißt nach ihr, Käthe-Beutler-Haus. Sicherlich werden wir bei der heutigen Eröffnung noch viel von Käthe Beutler und ihrem Lebensweg erfahren. Und ich möchte daher nur das rausgreifen, was mich besonders beeindruckt hat. Käthe Beutler begann in den 20er Jahren des letzten Jahrhunderts ihre berufliche Laufbahn als Kinderärztin in der Charité. Und später hatte sie dann ihre eigene Kinderarztpraxis in Berlin. In dieser Zeit war das für eine mehrfache Mutter alles andere als selbstverständlich. Und mit der Machtergreifung der Nationalsozialisten waren Käthe Beutler und ihre Familie Ausgrenzung und Verfolgung ausgesetzt, denn sie waren jüdischen Glaubens. Käthe Beutler erkannte früh, dass sie handeln musste, um ihre Familie und sich in Sicherheit zu bringen. Getreu ihrem Motto „Tu was“ entschied sie sich schnell dafür, mit ihrer Familie aus Deutschland zu fliehen. Nur dadurch konnten sich die Beutlers retten und sich in den USA eine neue Existenz aufbauen. Und auch in den USA war Käthe Beutler wieder als Kinderärztin tätig. Und auch hier musste sie sich wieder gegen Vorurteile durchsetzen. Sie war eine der wenigen Frauen, die einen Arztberuf ausübten. Sie war Jüdin, sie war Fremde und Englisch war nicht ihre Muttersprache. Aber sie hat es geschafft und ist unbeirrt ihren Lebensweg gegangen. Käthe Beutler ist daher Vorbild. Und das eben auch in der heutigen Zeit. Gerade für junge Forscherinnen, aber eben auch für Schülerinnen und Studentinnen, die in die Wissenschaft gehen wollen. Käthe Beutler ist ein wahnsinnig gutes Beispiel dafür, warum ich immer wieder sage, wir brauchen mehr weibliche Rollenvorbilder in Wissenschaft und Forschung. Ihre Entschiedenheit, Ihre Durchsetzungsfähigkeit und Ihre Weitsicht verdienen größten Respekt. Indem Sie das neue Forschungsgebäude nach Käthe benannt haben, wird diese Anerkennung in sehr guter Art und Weise umgesetzt. Mit dem Käthe-Beutler-Haus ist am Campus Berlin-Buch ein topmodernes Forschungsgebäude entstanden, das jetzt in die Nutzung überführt wird. Wir als Bund haben an dieser Stelle gerne uns an den Kosten für diesen Neubau beteiligt und 26,2 Millionen Euro von ungefähr 29 Millionen Euro Gesamtkosten übernommen. Was ist eigentlich das Besondere an diesem Gebäude? Das Käthe-Beutler-Haus wird die Forschung in Berlin verbinden, sowohl räumlich als auch inhaltlich. Das Käthe-Beutler-Haus ist architektonisch als offener und auch als flexibler Forschungsbau konzipiert. Und daher können sich hier Forscherinnen und Forscher eng miteinander vernetzen und räumlich gut zusammenarbeiten. Das Käthe-Beutler-Haus wird auf dem Campus Buch auch die Verbindung zwischen dem BIC zum Max-Delbrück-Zentrum für molekulare Medizin, dem MDC, sein. Damit wird das Käthe-Beutler-Haus die Verknüpfung und Kommunikation zwischen diesen Einrichtungen erleichtern, und zwar in ganz praktischer Hinsicht. Zum Beispiel wird der Austausch von Forschungsdaten und die gemeinsame Nutzung von Proben zwischen den Partnern am Campusbuch ohne lange Wege möglich gemacht. Aber das Käthe-Beutler-Haus soll auch in inhaltlicher Art verbinden. So soll die Technologieplattform, die im Erdgeschoss des Käthe-Beutler-Hauses entsteht, nicht nur vom BIC, sondern auch vom MDC und von der Charité genutzt werden können. Im Käthe-Beutler-Haus wird vor allem die vaskuläre Biomedizin angesiedelt sein. Das ist ein Querschnittsbereich der biomedizinischen Forschung, der von großer grundsätzlicher Bedeutung für die Gesundheitsforschung ist. Und das ist auch ein weiteres verbindendes Element des Gebäudes. Und nicht zuletzt soll das Käthe-Beutler-Haus nicht nur von den Forschenden des BIC alleine genutzt werden, sondern es wird ein wesentlicher Bestandteil der privilegierten Partnerschaft zwischen dem Max-Delbrück-Zentrum sein. Und daher werden hier Arbeitsgruppen aus beiden Einrichtungen ganz eng miteinander arbeiten. Ich gratuliere dem Käthe-Beutler-Haus, darf mich bei allen ganz, ganz herzlich bedanken, die diesen Bau verwirklicht haben. Und ich wünsche dem Berliner Institut für Gesundheitsforschung in der Charité, dem MDC und allen Mitarbeiterinnen und Mitarbeitern am Käthe-Beutler-Haus ganz viel Erfolg und natürlich auch für die gemeinsame Zukunft am Campus Buch. Lassen Sie sich bei Ihrer Arbeit anstecken vom unbeirrten Lebensmut der Namensgeberin Ihres neuen Gebäudes und im besten Sinne vom Lebensmotto Käthe Beutlers: Tu was, inspirieren. Herzlichen Dank.
Frau Ministerin Karliczek, meine Damen und Herren, im vergangenen Juli standen wir noch gemeinsam auf dem Dach des Artets, um das Richtfest für das BIH-Gebäude in Berlin-Mitte zu feiern. Damals verabschiedeten wir uns mit der Perspektive auf ein Wiedersehen zur Eröffnung des Käthe-Beutler-Hauses in Berlin-Buch. Nun ist es soweit und ich freue mich sehr, dass wir heute
The time has come and I'm very pleased that we can celebrate the opening of the Käthe Beutler building together today, even if only digitally. We are doing this in a year that we are calling Knowledge City Berlin 2021 in honor of the 200th birthdays of the great researchers Virchow and Helmholtz. And we're doing so in awareness of our city's great scientific tradition, which we also see as a mission for the future. Today's opening of the Käthe Beutler building fits in perfectly with this. It's another important milestone in the mission of the Berlin Institute for Health Research to turn innovative research into health for people. On January 1st of this year, the Berlin Institute for Health Research became part of the Charité's third pillar alongside the University Hospital and the medical faculty. With this step, a federally funded research institution has become part of a university hospital for the first time. This strengthens the transfer between medical research and practice and benefits patients. I would like to thank the federal government and Minister Karliczek for the good cooperation and the great confidence in Berlin as a science location. The Berlin Institute of Health is on a very good course, with Professor Baum, a renowned researcher and proven science manager, has taken over the management of BIH. The operational implementation of the integration process is nearing completion, and thanks to the close involvement of the staff representatives, a good transition of almost 400 employees has been achieved. Scientific development is also going very well and will receive further impetus from the Käthe Beutler building. The immediate proximity to the internationally renowned Max Delbrück Center, to the joint MDC Charité Research Center, and to the outpatient clinics located on the campus enables a particularly close cooperation between the partners at the Buch campus. The Beutler House plays an important bridging role in the MDC's privileged partnership with the BIH and Charité. Their joint research activities in the new focus area of vascular biomedicine are of great scientific, health policy and social importance. And now find ideal framework conditions. A better location could not have been found for the project. The Buch Campus Research and Technology Park has several advantages as an impetus for our brain city Berlin, such as the high density of excellent research institutions and the successfully developed link between science and business, which will soon be further strengthened by the new Berlin BioCube Startup Center. I'm particularly pleased that the new research building bears the name of Käthe Beutler. I'm pleased that 2 members of her family, including a Nobel Prize winner in medicine, Bruce Beutler, have agreed to attend today's opening. On behalf of the city of Berlin, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to them and would be delighted to welcome them here in person after the pandemic. Berlin today is making a name for itself through its freedom of science, its openness to the world, and its culture of cooperation, and also by inviting researchers from all over the world to become part of an international scientific community. As Senator for Science and Governing Mayor, it is very important to me that cutting-edge medical research and cutting-edge care are closely linked, and that the people in our city and far beyond the borders of Berlin benefit from this dynamic. I wish all those involved continued success, both in joint research and in a major project which is called Health City Berlin 2030. Berlin is the right place to focus on the medicine of the future. I'm pleased that we are pulling together with you toward this goal. Thank you very much and all the best. Yes, thank you very much for the words of welcome from the Federal Minister of Research, Anja Karliczek, and the governing mayor and science senator of Berlin, Michael Müller. I've just heard that there was a glitch and you couldn't hear me, so I'd like to welcome everybody again on the occasion of the opening of the Käthe Beutler building on behalf of the Max Delbrück Center. And Ms. Karliczek and Mr. Müller, I've mentioned them already. I thank them already for their words. I would like to welcome our chairperson of the supervisory board, Frau von Wessling, the head of Charité, Heike, Mr. Krömer, and
family members of the Beutler family. Thank you very much for being here, for being with us. It's a great pleasure for us.
I would also like to welcome the head of the Jewish community, Gideon Hoffe, and the architects Alexander Koblitz and Tim Kleyer, as well as the 2 sculptors who embellished this, Lenk and Anna Borgmann. And with that, I would like to give the floor to my highly appreciated colleague. Mr. Sommer, thank you very much and a very warm welcome on behalf of the BIH. And now we would like to have a closer look at the building itself that we are opening today, the Käthe Beutler building. It took 3 years until a part of the building of the former cancer clinic was refurbished and connected to a new building. And thus the Käthe Beutler building was created. In order for you to be able to have a look at it, although you're just watching it digitally, Mr. Petermann of the MDC did a video of this new building we can watch now. Film ab.
Mit dem Käthe Beutler Haus eröffnen wir das erste Gebäude des BEH auf dem Forschungscampus Berlin-Buch. Das Gebäude verbindet die Bestandsgebäude des ECRC und stellt eine Art Ringschluss dar. Wie zentral das Thema Translation hier ist, sieht man schon am Foyer des Gebäudes. Das Foyer wurde mit dem Neubau errichtet und dient nicht nur als Eingang für den Neubau des KWH, sondern auch als Zugang für das ECRC die Forschungsambulanzen und die Räume der nationalen Kohorte des MDC.
Ist Begegnungsstätte und Innovation braucht Begegnung. Als Forscher kann man sich leicht im Elfenbeinturm in Details verlieren, aber durch den Patientenkontakt wird uns die Bedeutung unserer Aufgabe täglich bewusst. Wir bauen hier den Fokusbereich vaskuläre Biomedizin zwischen MDT und BIH auf. Blutgefäße sind im Fokus, sie durchdringen alle Organe und sind von zentraler Bedeutung für Funktionen, aber auch für Erkrankungen.
Käthe Beutler hat ja auch häufig gesagt, tu etwas. Ich finde, es ist ein ganz wunderbares Motto, weil es letztendlich umschreibt, dass wir die Herausforderungen der Zukunft aktiv angehen müssen und sie ergreifen müssen. Und genau das wollen wir hier im Käthe Beutler Haus ermöglichen.
Das Haus wurde vom Berliner Architekturbüro Schleier-Kopitz letzte Freivogel entworfen. Wir haben eine Gesamtfläche von 3000 Quadratmetern. Diese bietet ca. 200 Mitarbeitern Platz für die Arbeit. Die Gesamtkosten beliefen sich auf ca. 24 Millionen Euro netto. Den Kern des Käthe Beutler Hauses bilden die Laborbereiche im Zentrum des Gebäudes mit den dazugehörigen vorgelagerten Auswärtszonen für die Wissenschaftler. An der Südseite befindet sich der Gruppenleiter. An der Schnittstelle dieser beiden Bereiche wurden die Orte für die informelle Kommunikation angeordnet, um eine Verbindung zwischen den Gruppenleitungen und den Wissenschaftlern herzustellen.
Gerhardt und ich haben uns bewusst entschieden, das Labor anders zu organisieren. Nicht nach Abteilung, sondern nach Funktionseinheiten. Um so Wissenschaftlern Interaktionsmöglichkeiten zu bieten und den Austausch von Technologie und Erkenntnissen zu unterstützen.
Wir sind jetzt wieder im Erdgeschoss. Hier befinden sich große innenliegende Räume, in die ab Anfang April die Technologieplattform bestehend aus den Massenspektrometern und Sequenzern einziehen werden. Diese unterstützen die Wissenschaftler bei ihrer täglichen Arbeit.
Ich bin Mitglied des Künstlerteams Borgmann-Lenk zusammen mit der dänischen Bildhauerin Anna Borgmann. Und wir haben hier für das MDC ein Kunstwerk entwickelt, was wir hier gerade im Foyer aufbauen.
Das Kunstwerk trägt den tollen Namen Orakel. Was spannend dabei ist, dass in der Wissenschaft und in der Kunst eigentlich der Blick des Betrachters entscheidend ist, was man wirklich sieht, was man versteht.
Am meisten freue ich mich über das Lebensfeld in Berlin, die verschiedenen Disziplinen, die hier insbesondere am Campus vorhanden sind und die einem ungeahnte Möglichkeiten in Zukunft bieten.
Transaktion an sich bedeutet übersetzen. Hier wollen wir wirklich aus der grundlegenden Erkenntnis der biologischen Prozesse gemeinsam in Richtung Anwendung arbeiten.
Ja, jetzt haben Sie einen kleinen Eindruck gewonnen.
So now you get an insight into our new building, and now we look forward to the joint welcome address by the three institutions. Thomas Sommer, Scientific Director of the Max Delbrück Center, Professor Christopher Baum as the Chairman of the Board of Directors of the Berlin Institute of Health, and Axel Pries, the Dean of the Charité.
Sehr geehrte Bundesforschungsministerin, liebe Frau Karliczek,
Dear Federal Research Minister Karliczek, Governing Mayor Müller, dear Beutler family, dear Dr. Joffe. We are standing in a building that we laid the foundation stone for in 2018. And now it's that combines basic research, clinical research, technology platforms, and translation under one roof and integrating all of this. It is the first BIH building of our young Berlin Institute of Health, a wonderful building that has been opened now and filled with life. That's why the inauguration today is a special pleasure for us here at the BIH. And to be able to open it together with the MDC shows a special bond with the Max Delbrück Center as a privileged partner. And directly next to us, we have the ECRC, the Experimental Clinical Research Center, where the MDC conducts clinical trials together with the Charité. And this means that all three partners that Mr. Sommer, Mr. Pries, and myself represent are connected under one roof, and we will closely work together. Researchers, clinicians, and patients can meet here in the future. The Baum runs right through the middle of this building. Thus, it fits well that the border between basic research and clinical application is crossed every day here in the Käthe Beutler House. In terms of content, we will focus on translational vascular biomedicine, thus research into blood vessels and the transfer of results into diagnosis and therapy of diseases. The woman who gave the building its name plays a very important role for us. Käthe Beutler studied medicine at the Charité from 1917 onwards, as one of only very few women at that time. She successfully completed her doctorate and continued her scientific activities during her further training as a pediatrician. She later practiced as a pediatrician in her own practice here in Berlin. Being Jewish, she had to escape from the Nazis from Berlin and went to the USA with her family. And there too, she worked as a doctor, and she passed on her spirit of research to her son, Frederick, who also became a scientist, her son, Ernest, a leading hematologist, and her grandson, Bruce, in 2011, the Nobel Prize in Medicine for his research in the field of innate immunity. Frederick and Bruce Beutler are both with us here today, and we are very happy about that, along with many other family members. And we and they will remember their mother and grandmother. And we are really delighted about this. Several researchers from the MDC and the Charité were involved in the appreciation of Käthe Beutler's story, and we would like to express our sincere thanks to them, especially to Thomas Kammertens. Today, we are standing here in this impressive research building, and we are very pleased that our successful collaboration with the Käthe Beutler House has a place and a first home for the BIH. A home that, with its generous design and open spaces, facilitates fruitful encounters between scientists from the MDC, the Charité, and the BIH. A home that, with its outstanding technical equipment and laboratory structures, provides the best condition for excellent translational research that is close to the patients. And a home next door to the MDC, the Experimental Clinical Research Center, the ECRC, and the Leibniz Research Institute for Molecular Pharmacology, as well as clinics and biotechnological companies here at the Science and Biotechnology Campus in Berlin-Buch. So it's a cooperation of many parties that contributed to the fact that we can hand over this building to its users today. And we would like to thank, in representation of all parties, the Federal Minister of Research, Anja Karliczek, as well as the Federal Ministry of Research and Education. We would like to thank the governing mayor of Berlin, Müller, and the state of Berlin for their well-meaning support and their guidance. We would also like to thank especially the Beutler family for allowing us to commemorate Käthe Beutler with this building. In the current year of science, 2021, which is marked by Rudolf Virchow and Hermann von Helmholtz, the commemoration of others and female significant scientists is a very special and very important sign for us. Joy that Dr. Joffe, as chairman of the Jewish community of Berlin, is with us here today, remotely connected. Whenever a new building is inaugurated, its creators should not be forgotten. We thank the architects Alexander Koblitz and Tim Kleyer from the architectural firm Kleyer, Koblitz, Letzel Freivogel for this wonderful modern research building. We would love to show it to you, but due to the pandemic, this is not possible today. We would like to thank the MDC's construction department, Ralf Streckwall, and especially Juliane Körner, without whose commitment this project would not have been possible, as well as Ludmila Brozirenko, who provided excellent support for the planning and execution of the construction on behalf of BIH. We are really sorry that we cannot explore this beautiful new building with you today. All the more, we hope that the future users will settle here well very soon, and that they will continue to successfully advance their research, and that their results will benefit many patients. Käthe Beutler building, the name represents this mission, and also that the results, as I said. And this is perfectly in line with the leitmotif of the Berlin Institute of Health: research becomes health. We would like to thank the Beutler family again from the bottom of our heart for allowing us to name the building after Käthe Beutler, and we wish the Käthe Beutler building to have a wonderful future as the location of internationally networked research and patient health.
Thank you very much for your welcome address of the MDC Board of Directors, BIH, and the Charité.
Und nun möchten wir zu denjenigen.
And now we would like to speak to those who will move into the Käthe Beutler building, the scientists. We are now joined by Dr. Jennifer Kirwan. She heads the core facility Mertins. He is the head of the core facility proteomics. And Professor Holger Gerhardt and Professor Michael Potente represent the vascular biomedicine core facility. This means the research on blood vessels, a research focus of BIH and MDC, whose teams will come together here in the Käthe Beutler building and are already very much looking forward to the move. Am I right, Mr. Gerhardt? Absolutely. Can you hear me? Great. Yes, we can hear you. I'm just 100 meters away in our current building, but we are really delighted to be able to move into the new building because it will enable us to really cooperate very closely with the interdisciplinary researchers under one roof, where we will also have more of an exchange at random and not a planned one to enrich our research activities. Mr. Potente, you're not only 100 meters away, but you just moved to Berlin with your team coming from Frankfurt. And you haven't actually moved yet. You're still in Frankfurt, right? That's right. I'm just new to the Berlin science scene, and I'm still organizing our great prospect to be able to move into that beautiful building and to shape this focus area of vascular biomedicine. This is a huge demand and a huge challenge for the future. Mr. Gerhardt, research on blood vessels is a core topic at the MDC and BIH as well, because so many diseases are associated with blood vessels. Stroke and heart attack comes to mind immediately, but also different ones like diabetes, eye or kidney diseases that are also co-caused by the blood vessels. And recent studies have shown that COVID-19 is severe, the disease is severe if the blood vessels are also affected. That's accurate. From our point of view as a vascular biomedical expert, that's not surprising because the blood vessels have been known to be a crucial part of most of the diseases. They link all the organs, they're important for all the growth processes, for the immune response. And COVID-19, the pandemic, not only with regard to the infections, but also with regard to the epidemiology. Those who have had dysfunctions in their blood vessels before, and latest research shows that even the neuronal problems in the brain are based on changes in the blood vessels. It's a highly interesting topic, and I hope that we can contribute to better understanding and also to be able to perform therapy in this field. Mr. Potente, the current worrying side effect of the AstraZeneca vaccine might have to do something with blood vessels. At least it appears in the brain, in the blood vessels. Yes, you are talking about the sinus vein thrombosis. Yes, if there seems to be a temporary or a time-based relation, but it's a rare complication that happens in the blood vessels. But according to the latest findings, it seems that it's not the root cause, but it's just the place where it manifests. It seems that it seems to be an immunological response, which leads to the following. As a consequence of the vaccination, antibodies are created activating platelets, and this leads to a clotting of the platelets, and this can cause a sinus vein thrombosis. There's a similar phenomenon, heparin-induced thrombosis or problem, which is a similar phenomenon, and this is why this phenomenon can happen in the context of a vaccination. Mr. Gerhardt, by BIH, a while ago, started the BLOVE study, the Berlin Long-Term Observation of Vascular Events. That's the long name of the study. And patients who have gone through a vascular event, a disease of their blood vessels, they are supposed to be observed for many years. 10,000 patients shall be recruited. What is this about? What is this BLOVE study? Indeed, it's a very, very interesting study because the buzzword is 1 cohort, 5 diseases. And it is supposed to show the connections between blood vessels, diseases that can manifest in different organs. The risk potential, if a disease in one organ is a risk for another organ, that's an assumption we have, but the connection, who are the patients that are affected by it? How can we use biomaterial to determine it? How can we stratify the patients so that we can perform therapy and carry out prevention? All this is supposed to be done research in, and we are actively involved in this. And it's really, really exciting and unique at the same time. And the aim is to prevent, for instance, if you suffer a stroke, the aim is to prevent a heart attack, or that if you suffer from diabetes, that you shouldn't have an eye disease because there's a connection. And this connection lies with the blood vessels? Yes, exactly. This is something we can state. Diabetics have pre-damaged blood vessels. We're actively working on different models to analyze the damage to the endothelium very clearly. And we just have an interference here. And we're also trying to determine the exact relations or connections, how a disease of a kidney, for instance, can lead to the endothelium in the brain to be damaged, for instance. You are not a doctor, you are a biologist, and you examine the very tiny blood vessels, the capillaries. I've seen microscopic pictures or images of your research. It's also the aesthetics of the blood vessels you're interested in, but not only, am I right? Not only, that's accurate. Indeed, it's very beautiful. And sometimes we say seeing is believing. We are tempted to believe what we see. But what we are interested in is how these tiny capillaries are structured, how they are organized in the course of their development, and how they maintain their adaptability that is so essential for all the physiological aspects of our life. The question how we age, for instance, this adaptability of the blood vessels is a crucial topic. And we want to understand how the individual cells that are such a complex construction, how they find the right place, how they find the right function they have to perform, and how they can adapt. And one very decisive point to understand is the following. Do we have to assume from a therapeutic point of view that we have differentiated cells and we have to make sure that they're in the right place? Or can we part from a generic development of the cells? There isn't enough time to really dwell on this. I could tell you more, but maybe it's enough as an incentive or an idea. Mr. Potente, you also do research in the capillaries, particularly the impact of the metabolism on the blood vessels. Can you give us an example, for instance, where the impact of the... We can't hear you, Mr. Potente. Maybe you have to unmute. My apologies. Yes. The background is that the growth and conversion of blood vessels is associated with the metabolism of the tissue they take care of, they supply. No matter if we're talking about a physiological organ or an anomaly like a tumor. The classic example is a tissue that doesn't have enough oxygen. The supply isn't enough, and that leads to the building of new vessels. So we try to understand what is the underlying mechanism of this coupling. And we are particularly interested in the cells of the lining of the cells, the endothelium. Latest findings of research show that changes in the metabolism of these cells are one of the functions of the blood vessels, and that this can also drive diseases. You are a cardiologist, heart specialist. You're a doctor. So probably your target, your aim is to perform a therapy one day. Do you have an idea? Our current work is still long-term research, following the motto that first you have to come up with an insight before you can apply it and implement it. In cell cultures and in organisms, we carry out research, and the question always is, what does that mean if you find something? And we are always in touch with colleagues from other disciplines as well, because innovation, this is where innovation happens, at these interfaces. According to the slogan that you have to enter into new contacts to enable translation, the BIH, MDC and Charité are the perfect environment to carry out this translation in future. So thank you very much, Professor Gerhardt and Professor Potente, for the insights into vascular biomedicine.
Continue with Dr. Jennifer Kirwan. She is heading the core facility metabolomics, and her interest lies in studying metabolites, that is, the small chemical compounds that the body makes. The complete set of these metabolites in a biological sample, such as a cell, is known as the metabolome. Jennifer, I can imagine that there are quite a few metabolites in the human body. How come?
Well, it's challenging. And because it's challenging, we are a very multidisciplinary team and quite specialized in what we do. And I'm representing a much larger group of people who are working on this. Metabolites represent a very wide range of physical and chemical properties. So we have some metabolites that dissolve in water and others that don't. Some are larger than others. And we're also dealing with quite a large dynamic range. So that is that some metabolites are quite highly concentrated in a biological sample and some are at very trace levels. So we need very specialist equipment. We use instruments called mass spectrometers. They're very specialist weighing scales to give you an analogy. But a lot of our time is actually spent in taking the signals that these mass spectrometers produce and then trying to interpret them, process them, characterize what we're seeing. And then we use very advanced statistical and modeling methods to try and distinguish patient over time.
Okay, and the concentration and the composition of metabolites play a major role in health and disease. Can you give us an example?
Well, a very simple example would be one that everyone is very familiar with, and that's that in diabetics, you tend to have very high levels of blood glucose or blood sugars. This is a very exciting area of research for metabolomics at the moment, and we've got previous research that has shown that, for example, branched chain amino acids, acyl carnitines, and aromatic amino acids are all contributing to the pathology behind this disease and could, in fact, in the future be used as predictive biomarkers of who may develop diabetes in the future. We ourselves are looking at diabetic complications and using our research in metabolomics to try and look at why certain complications are developing in certain individuals and not in others.
Okay, so Jennifer, a major objective of the BIH is precision medicine. The state of metabolites in the body might be of major importance for this objective, for the precision medicine. Why do you think so?
That's right. I do believe that metabolites and metabolomics is a vital tool in our key to cracking the idea of precision medicine. And one of the reasons is that metabolomics is one of the most objective ways we have of measuring the so-called phenotype of the individual. So this is the sum total of the genetics of a person, but also their environment, their diet, and what's of increasing interest is what we call the microbiome. So this is the so-called friendly and sometimes less friendly bacteria that make up a large part of us.
Okay, so thank you, Jennifer, for this view into metabolomics. Und jetzt kommen wir zu Herrn Mertins. Auch er untersucht.
Now we switch to Mr. Mertins. He analyzes large quantities of small molecules at the same time in your core facility, proteomics. It's all about the proteins. You also want to capture them in their entirety. What is so exciting about that? Proteins are exciting construction plans for the proteins are the construction plans. They are structural components that are essential for the functioning of the cells. They transmit growth signals or metabolites, as we've just heard. They're also involved here. Our mass spectrometry technology serves the purpose of determining the proteins. I work with colleagues from the US and Boston. We developed a technology to analyze the signaling pathways. And it's very good that we can use the same methodology at in the Käthe Beutler building and that we can analyze these processes in future. As a core facility, you cooperate with many different groups and you support them in many different projects. Can you give us an example? Proteomics and our technology, we can build a bridge between long-term research and clinical research. At Buch Campus, we receive samples of Charité and we can measure them and analyze them. We work with clinicians and physicists, practitioners to analyze molecular pathways, and we can compare them to results of the MDC and therapeutic procedures in future that we want to develop. What is very interesting is the corona research. To link our research to the corona research is the project that's very interesting, will be carried out with Hoffmann Kühnert and Mr. Gerhardt. We will analyze the effects of corona infections on the blood vessels at protein level. And in order to analyze the proteins, as Ms. Kirwan analyzes the metabolites in their entirety, I'm sure you have many large devices that in an automated way can analyze and measure many molecules at the same time. Do they all fit into the Käthe Beutler building? We have enough room. We have our devices that we can move into the building very easily. We will be operational as of June, but there's still space for more. The Käthe Beutler building is an excellent place for science, a lot of room for machinery, and we're very much looking forward to work together with our our Charité and BIH and MDC colleagues in future. So I would like to thank you.
Thank you for giving us insight into your research. We wish you the best of success. Brings us to the main program item of our event today. We turn our attention to the namesake of the new building, Käthe Beutler. We drew up a commemorative plaque for her, and Professor Christopher Baum and Professor Heike Graßman, the administrative director of the MDC, will now unveil this commemorative plaque. For this purpose, we will go outside.
Nochmal die Anmoderation. Ja, dann bedanken wir uns ganz herzlich für diese spannenden Einblicke in die Forschung und wir wünschen Ihnen natürlich viel Erfolg.
Thank you very much for these exciting insights into your work, and we wish you a lot of success for your work at the Käthe Beutler House. This brings us to the main program item of our event today. We dedicate ourselves and turn our attention to the namesake of our new building, Käthe Beutler. We have created a commemorative plaque in her honor, and we're going to unveil it now. This is done by Professor Christopher Baum and Professor Heike Graßman, the administrative director of the MDC. And for this purpose, we will briefly go outside. It is a great pleasure and honor in this virtual context to welcome the Beutler family here with us to this special day and event. The new research center has the name of a special woman, a very ambitious, strong and smart woman, Käthe Beutler. And as the Tagesspiegel newspaper wrote today, a pioneer in medicine. And we have the great pleasure to unveil this plaque today, and I would like to read out the text to you. Dr. Käthe Beutler, née Italiener, was born in Berlin in 1896. In 1918, she was among the second generation of women to study medicine at the Charité. She received her doctorate in 1923 and her medical license she received in 1924. The following year, she married her colleague Alfred Beutler. She decided to specialize in pediatrics and published on the treatment of congenital syphilis with Davazan, an arsenic preparation. In 1927, she opened her own pediatric practice. From 1933 onwards, the Jewish family 55. There, Käthe Beutler passed her American state examination and started her own practice as early as 1937. After her husband's death in 1962, she moved to California, where two of her children lived and where she died in 1999 at the age of 102 after a fulfilled life. She passed on her passion for research to her children and grandchildren. Bruce Beutler received the Nobel Prize for Physiology on Medicine in 2011 for his work on the activation of the innate immune system. Thank you to Professor Heike Graßman for reading out the text on Käthe Beutler, a wonderful reminder of a remarkable woman, the namesake that we celebrate today. And now I have the great pleasure to announce her son, Frederick Beutler, and her grandson, Bruce Beutler, who will remember their mother and grandmother, Käthe Beutler.
Ich wünsche, dass ich diese Rede auf Deutsch halten kann. Aber 86 Jahre nach meiner Auswanderung ist das nicht mehr möglich. Ich muss nun auf Englisch.
6 years after moving to the US, I have to continue in English.
I am Dr. Beutler's firstborn. Born in 1926, I was named Friedrich Joseph. In America, I am known as Frederick and am usually called Fred. My siblings, Ernest and Ruth, are deceased, but 10 second-generation descendants are here, as well as numerous members of the third-generation descendants and even some of the fourth. Let me first thank those who made this wonderful occasion possible. There are too many to acknowledge individually, but special thanks go to Professor Thomas Mertins. I and all my family owe special gratitude to Professor Hildebrand. Her scholarly and yet readable research publications gave me many new insights regarding my mother's life. I was especially impressed that earlier in her career, and unbeknownst to me, my mother had been an effective researcher. I sometimes jokingly said that Professor Hildebrand knew more about my mother than I did. Nevertheless, I would like to offer some special personal insights regarding my mother. My mother was a doer. Her family was wealthy, and it would have been easy to follow existing custom by simply staying home prior to finding a suitable husband. She could have talent. Instead, she undertook demanding medical studies, following these with assisting a famous physician researcher and finally opening her own practice. I am more of a dreamer, and one of my earliest memories involved my getting dressed very slowly because my mind was elsewhere. Mutti, which was what we called her, came in and said, "Tu etwas." After my father died, she was the glue that held the family together. Many of her grandchildren who loved her, as well as some of her great-grandchildren, are with us on this festive occasion. Even in her old age, she gave piano lessons to her grandchildren, as well as to children in the neighborhood. And at the same time, she deplored that she was so old that she no longer could be productive. I also had servants in an opulent apartment, but as soon as we emigrated to America without complaints, she perforce became a hausfrau in a modest flat, caring for her husband, Alfred, as well as myself and my siblings, Ernie and Ruth. Her brother, Karl, to whom she was devoted, was murdered by the Nazis at the Mauthausen slave labor camp. But her grief was very private, and she told me about it only years later. After my father died in 1962, she moved to California. She said she had always hated Milwaukee, where we lived, for over 25 years. This came as a surprise to me because not once had she complained. When nearing 90, she was hospitalized for a minor stroke, and X-rays showed that the head of her femur was crushed, but she had never complained. Being a Stoic means that my mother seldom expressed strong emotions. But after she died, I came into possession of a handwritten journal. Its contents brought me to tears. For in this journal, which exclusively covered the first year of my life, she freely expressed all the love she had for me, her very firstborn.
Thank you so much, Professor Beutler, for your moving words about your mother. And now it is my great honor and my pleasure to welcome the grandson of Käthe Beutler, Bruce Beutler, who is mentioned on the memory plaque for being awarded with the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 2011 for his discoveries in the field of inflammation and native immunity. He will also share his memories of Käthe Beutler, who, as you will hear, has been of significant importance for his scientific career. Professor Beutler, the stage is yours.
Thank you. She was our link to the past, with nearly 4 decades of memories about life in Germany reaching back to the 19th century. My first meeting with her that I can remember took place around 1960 or 1961, when I was about 3 years old. She and my grandfather were visiting us in California, and they were walking with me along a residential road not far from my home. They spoke to each other in German and to me in heavily accented English. I heard a metallic ping on the pavement behind me, turned around to look, and saw that a silver dollar had been dropped, which I picked up. At once, I heard another ping, again behind me, and realized my grandfather was dropping these silver dollars. There were 9 of them in all, each dropped behind me as I scrambled to pick them up. "It's raining silver dollars," he said. My grandmother corrected him. "No, it's not raining dollars. That cannot be. Either you gave them to him, or we must turn them in to the police because they don't belong to us." She disapproved of deceptive games with small children. She was generally indulgent with her grandchildren, but mainly when we were small. She was strict when we were a bit older. Laziness, unreliability, or especially dishonesty. After my grandfather died, she came to live in Southern California for several years, in Sierra Madre, which bordered my own family's suburb of Arcadia. She lived in a small house with a nice garden to which she was attentive, often growing vegetables for herself. My brothers, sister, and I liked to spend weekends with her, and visits were arranged in rotation, one of the 4 of us per weekend. On those occasions when we were young, she spent endless patient hours playing board games, card games, dominoes, and in my case, since I didn't like these games very much, taking me to the zoo, the Arboretum, the Descanso Gardens, Busch Gardens, and Bailey's Canyon, where the 2 of us went for long walks when she was still able to do so. She loved classical music and was a skilled pianist. For a time, she gave piano lessons to children in her neighborhood. In general, she always tried to encourage children to learn. To cite one example, we sometimes spoke about history and different cultures. Perceiving that I might have a nascent interest in cultural anthropology, she gave me the book Civilization by Käthe. I was particularly interested in biology, and especially in animals and their behavior. This prompted her to give me the book King Solomon's Ring by the Nobel Prize-winning ethologist Konrad Lorenz. Further, knowing of my particular fascination with birds, she bought me a pair of zebra finches when I was 6 or 7 years old, making it clear that they were mine, but caring for them at her house for several years until my parents were willing to let me bring them home. She generally tried to nurture interests and stimulate learning among all her grandchildren in this way. She avoided spoiling us with praise, but she showed admiration for scientists, artists, and human intellectual achievement of all kinds. This certainly motivated us. When asked why she had become a physician, my grandmother answered, "To be useful." I once asked her the more specific question as to why she had become a pediatrician. A summary of the reply would be that she found children aesthetically pleasing, enjoyable to care for, and there was the prospect of helping them much more than was often possible with adult patients. We were all beneficiaries of this viewpoint. We admired our grandmother because sympathetic to young people, even if she was strict with them, and closely aware of current events, even when she was very old. We saw her as a strong person who always tried to do good, even in a world that had been particularly harsh toward her. If she were here today, she would be delighted and undoubtedly very much surprised to find the Charité is naming a Käthe Beutler house in her memory. We are proud that her exemplary life is being recognized by this esteemed institution, which played a formative role in her professional career.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bruce Beutler, for being with us today and for your words. Ja, meine Damen und Herren, es ist unfassbar.
Ladies and gentlemen, the enormous losses caused by the crimes of the Nazi regime on a human and scientific level are inconceivable. It is therefore all the more wonderful how we are connected today by a bond of friendship, because science is characterized by the fact that it does not allow itself to be restricted by supposed borders. Against this background, we are particularly pleased that Dr. Gideon Joffe, the chairman of the Jewish community of Berlin, is to your address. Ladies and gentlemen, Beutler family, I'm very delighted that I have the opportunity to share with you the inauguration of this beautiful building on this glorious day. Many people say we are living in crazy times. Corona indeed despairs many people, but the crazy times date back 80 years, more or less. These were times that nowadays are inconceivable. And the more I'm delighted how the world changed in the meantime. Käthe Beutler was forced to leave Germany. And today, a part of Käthe Beutler comes back. With the namesake of the building, she turned into another member of the German population. We are convinced that this building is going to see wonderful developments with impact on a global level. And it's just a question of time. I do believe in the next 10 or 20 awarded in the name of Käthe Beutler. So I wish all the staff, all the employees, a lot of success, a lot of patience, and please continue to honor Käthe Beutler's memory. We are delighted that you do so today, also on behalf of the Jewish community. All the best for you, and thank you very much. Thank you so much, Dr. Joffe, for these beautiful and dignified words with regard to the inauguration of the Käthe Beutler building. We are now almost at the end of our small celebration, and we would like to take this opportunity to express our sincere thanks to everyone who contributed today to turning this opening into a dignified online event. We will now pass on the floor to Andrea Runo, the Administrative Director of the BIH, and she's in charge of all the buildings. Ms. Runo, the floor is yours. Minister Karliczek, Mayor Müller, Beutler family, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. I'm closing this event, but the Research Campus Berlin-Buch, and we open the first proper building of the BIH in the Charité. It took 3 years to build the house and to finish it. In August 2017, we had to demolish other buildings. 10 months later, we were able to lay the foundations. We wanted to go further ahead in December 2019, but there were quite a few delays due to the market situation in Berlin and due to different problems with the operating companies. But now we left all these problems behind and we can start to move into the location. The new building is part of the larger campus and connects two buildings. Due to its situation, it is located in the north of the campus. It is located on the border between Berlin and Brandenburg. And it is, so to speak, an entrance into Berlin. The lobby that we find ourselves in now is of crucial importance for this and also into the building and the rooms of the MDC. It is also built for clinicians, patients, and test persons to meet. And in summer, we will also establish here a small cafe. In the Beutler House, researchers from vascular biomedicine and 2 technology platforms will find their home on more than 3,000 square meters. At the same time, we will have a new cooperation and collaboration with the Experimental and Clinical Research Center of the Charité and the MDC. And we expect from there new scientific insights on a very high level. Apart from the different rooms and the meeting points for the different scientists, the laboratories are the core of the building, the core piece of the building. We have a lot of offices also for evaluation and assessment, and offices for the group leaders in the very east of the building where the sun rises. The connection between the laboratories and the offices, this is where the places for informal communications are located. When it comes to the communication made of noise-canceling elements, and we invested a lot of money in this building. More than 24 million euro were invested. This is why we are very grateful to Berlin for supporting us and for providing us with the funds. Our thanks go also to the different departments for approval, for the approval authorities who supported us in this project.
Wir danken natürlich auch den Architekten und den beteiligten 37 Ingenieurbüros und Gutachtern, die an der Planung, Ausführung und Begutachtung der Baumaßnahme beteiligt gewesen sind. Und natürlich danken wir auch den bauausführenden Betrieben, vor allem da, dass sie im Zeit- und im Allgemeinen im Kostenrahmen geblieben sind. Trotz zahlreicher Schwierigkeiten ist das Beutler Haus doch ein sehr sehenswertes Bauprojekt, was wir beziehen können. Das BEH hat keine eigene Bauabteilung. Und wir sind
that Ralf Streckwall of the MDC helped us in the planning process. I would also like to thank Juliane Körner, who is now working on another important project, and because she is going to become a mother. And I learned today that her son Peter was born last week. So I would like to convey my congratulations to her. And last but not least, I would like to thank Ludmila Brusenko of BIH, because she worked behind the scenes for this project. So to all of you and to all of those who I was not able to mention now due to the time frame, I would like to thank you cordially. You contributed to make sure that the BIH with this building can provide the scientists with improved working conditions, making sure that the scientists will be able to elaborate important insights into the blood vessel research. Go ahead. I wish you a lot of success in your new building, in the Käthe Beutler building. Thank you.